running a business is often like walking through a very dark woods with a lamp. And you can only see, generally what's right around you. And you don't know what's coming. And you can't really see, you know where you've been, but you can't see it. And so I think you're given, in business, you're given just enough for what you need right now, and that you have to figure that out before you can take that next step and deal with what is in the darkness. I fucked this up. I killed my company, right? I don't deserve to be running, business or whatever. Because I have all these people's lives that are my responsibility. But the truth is, I do deserve to run a business. I do know what the fuck I'm doing.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Millionaire in the Making podcast. My name is Gage.
I'm Justin.
We have a very special episode for you guys today. But before we get into this episode, I was looking at the analytics, and it looks like 80% of you guys are not subscribed. So do that before we get into this. And without any further ado, I'm going to let Justin introduce today's guest.
All right. Today we have a good friend. His name's Marcus. He runs a digital empire in Mobile. I'm going to kick it off to him, and we're going to have a really good episode today. There's going to be a lot of meat and potatoes, a lot of value to be taken from this.
No pressure. As Justin mentioned, I don't know about digital empire because digital empire and Mobile, those don't match up.
You're doing a great job.
But I appreciate it. So, I own Bluefish. We're an ad agency here in Mobile, but we do work nationwide. We've actually worked internationally before, but I don't think we currently have any international clients. Bluefish came into existence in 2007, 2008. And prior to that, I spent 10 years in the Washington, D.C. area, which is where I'm originally from, contracting to various DOD and Department of Justice, employers, if you will. So I've spent 25 years or more in the technology world.
Interesting.
As a developer, project manager, automation tester, designer, salesperson, account manager. Yeah, so what do you want to talk about?
You've been through every trend.
Yeah,
pretty much.
have. Yeah, Web 2.0, Web 3.0. It's been interesting to watch.
So we are just now starting out a social media branding agency. I mean, I've been in real estate for about 10 years, and a lot of that goes into social media marketing.
So time out, because I want to take a little tangent. I was driving here, and I remember... I don't think it was 10 years ago. It was probably damn near that much. I remember seeing a sign of yours. It was a big-ass sign back here on Canal Road.
Yeah, he tells me about that every other day.
Who the fuck is this guy? And now I'm sitting here on your podcast, and you're kicking ass. So.
Yeah, you're not allowed to have billboards in Orange Beach, so I ended up buying the property and turning that into an office sign, and that was the way around not being able... You can't have billboards in Orange Beach.
That's hilarious.
I had to just buy the property and say it was my office sign. And then, my ex-girlfriend worked right across the street. So I was like, you know what? Business. She gets to see my face every day.
Pissing her off.
Yeah.
It's a double win.
Double win.
Yeah.
But, I've been in the space off and on for about 10 years. We're kicking it back up now. You see all of the content we're pushing out. There's some days where we're pushing out 10 to 13 videos. Like we were just cranking out the numbers.
Killing it.
That's why I'm so excited to have you on here, because you've been through it all pretty much. Mm-hmm. From start to finish.
For sure.
You've seen pretty much the internet start and grow.
Actually, I did. Thanks for the reminder.
And grow. That's why.
Actually, I was. We were talking beforehand. I'm 49 years old, so I'm not technically part of your demographic, but I consider myself, because I don't live a 49-year-old life. But yeah, I do. I remember distinctly seeing the internet for the first time, and one of the buddies that I had showing me like a small little homepage that he had created. And it was just really odd. And then people telling you like, hey, you're going to do your shopping online. And I was like, fuck no, I'm not. And then, you're going to order groceries and do all this stuff. And it's really weird to see, how that has all come to fruition. So, but yeah, it's been an exciting adventure for sure.
At what point did you start monetizing it? Like, when did you start your own agency? When did you start working online? This is something that's, our fathers didn't really have that.
Right.
We have a new scalable economy where somebody can go from broke to almost multi-millionaire overnight if they catch the right trend.
100%. Yeah. Well, I think the way that I kind of dipped my toe into it is when I moved down here to the beach, I moved without a job. Okay. And I didn't really know what I was going to do. And we were driving back from the beach one day, and I had kind of kicked around this idea of starting an agency and building websites and stuff. And I'm going to adjust this only because I can tell my audio is not when I talk to you.
You're good.
Yeah. So we were driving back from the beach, and I stopped in. It was when David's Counterculture had a location there in Foley.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And so I stopped in and I said, "Hey, your website sucks. And, would you be interested?" And we came to an agreement that I would build them a website. It was a small 3 or 4 page website. It was kind of different in that I actually talked to one of their tattoo artists, and he did some of the graphics for it. So it had, kind of like their feel to it. And then, I traded them, I think, $200 or $300 in a really bad tattoo.
Interesting.
And that's how I got my start on the internet.
And how did it start scaling from that? Did you just start going to local businesses saying, "Hey, I found a little area, a little ripple in the marketplace, and I can take advantage of it"? Or was it just something that you just used as a side hustle, and you were just like not taking it that seriously?
Well, I mean, as all things, sometimes it starts as a side hustle, which this did. Although I didn't have another job, so I mean, I kind of threw myself into it.
Okay.
But the thing that I would say is, like once I figured out that this was really kind of something that I enjoyed and that I was good at, I kind of leaned into it. And then it's just a matter of, okay, figuring out where can I meet other business owners? How do I make those sales? How do I convince somebody that, this is worth, investing, thousands and now tens of thousands of dollars into? And so we just kind of went from there. But, it started with that first website. It was David's Counterculture. And as a matter of fact, I think I still have all the files for that. And I used to have it up as kind of like an Easter egg on our website. Like if you went to bluefishds.com/ first site or something like that, like this site was the one that showed up. And I don't do that anymore because it's so old that I don't even think it would render correctly. So, but yeah, I mean, so we've kind of progressed from there. So we started out really just kind of as a web agency. So we would build websites and web apps for people. Before web apps meant what they mean now, right? And then from there, it was kind of like, well, what else can we offer our clients that would allow us to keep more of that money in-house? So whether it was hosting or email marketing or, when social media started becoming a thing and you could start advertising, mind you, and so when that started to become a thing, then, we started adding, that. And now we're a full service agency, even though I hate that term. Yeah. Don't ever describe yourself as a full service anything. It's bullshit. But we offer a full suite of services. We even do TV or TV buys, radio buys, OTT, which is streaming for those of you that don't live in that world. And we manage social media accounts. We do social media advertising. We cover the gamut.
How many clients do you have right now?
God, man, I have no idea.
Rough estimate, 50 plus?
It's probably not that many. We really don't, because we finish a website and we don't really actively work with that client, even though they're still kind of clients to us. I'd probably put it around 25, 30.
That's still great, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It can always be more. So if you're out there and you need a website, give me a holler.
So you say did this originally start with just you, or did you have a team at the beginning?
No, it started with me, and occasionally, as is usually the case, you pull in some freelancers, especially for areas that you may not be good at. So I can do design. I'm not the greatest designer. So, oftentimes I'd pull in a designer or I'd pull in, another developer to help speed things up. I have a guy that still works for me. His name is Tad. And he was, technically speaking, he was my first full-time hire, if I remember correctly. That's, the way the story goes. And although I did have some part-time help before him, but he was my first full-time hire, and that was 10 years ago. So, he's stayed on. He's, been an amazing asset. And that's just not that common that somebody would stick around for that long. So I must be doing something right. Yeah. So he's a good guy. I really appreciate what he brings to the business. So,
how would you compare when you first started to now? Is it more? There's a lot more competition right now, but you don't have to exactly sell your services as much because everybody already knows that they need it.
Nope.
It's very, very easy.
You're wrong.
Really?
Yeah. You live in your bubble, so you think that everybody understands it and needs it and stuff. I spend every day, all day, explaining why people need to advertise. Period. Not just on social media or have a website or anything. if you're starting a business, oftentimes, you'll find that people, they just want to get started. So it's, can I afford the rent of the place that I'm going to be in? And can I afford to fill it with the product that I want to sell?
Obviously, can you afford not to do it? That's I mean,
that's
an easy pitch.
Different phrasing, but
Yeah.
but it's interesting to me that people don't think about all the other things that go into it. Like, oh, I'm going to need a relationship with a lawyer. I'm going to need a relationship with an accountant. I'm going to need a relationship with an advertising agency. And those things all cost money. And they oftentimes, there are 30,000 businesses in Mobile. And I would bet there's probably 1,000 that advertise, if that.
That's an interesting perspective. I guess it's because I am in my own little bubble. So everybody that I'm associating with just already knows that they need it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is just a really interesting conversation when you sit down with somebody and it's almost like an antagonistic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to make you more money. But so many times people have been burned, or they just don't know that there's a way to do it to get returns.
Okay.
So
you would think that, when somebody starts a business, they understand that leads create conversions, which create cash sales.
You would
you'd really think that, because that's just the basics of business.
Yep.
But when it comes to the digital world, I guess they can't exactly see it. It's not something they can touch with their hands. So, okay, I can understand that perspective.
Yeah, it's oftentimes it's with folks that don't spend a whole lot of time online. So it's think about who we have in Mobile. There's not for one, there's not any headquarters. There's no businesses that are headquartered in Mobile, and there's not it's not a younger crowd.
Yeah.
I think you're hanging out with a lot of younger folks here.
Yes.
And by younger, I mean anybody under the age of 40.
Yes.
Right. Whereas people that are over 40 didn't grow up with the internet.
Yes.
And they don't necessarily understand that that's how a majority of people are going to find out about them. So, yeah.
Interesting perspective. Yeah, we're in two different demographics. I like that perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. If you could go back to when you first started your agency, what are some changes that you would make? I mean, you're 20 plus years in the business now. I'm sure you've been through every situation that I can imagine.
Man, that's really hard because, one of the things that I oftentimes tell people is that, running a business is often like walking through a very dark woods with a lamp. And you can only see, generally what's right around you. And you don't know what's coming. And you can't really see, you kind of see, or where you've been, but you can't see it. And so I think in business, you're given just enough for what you need right now, and that you have to figure that out before you can take that next step and deal with what is in the darkness, if that makes sense.
That's a good analogy.
And so, it would be real easy for me to wax poetic and say, oh yeah, back in 2008 when I started Bluefish, I would have done X, Y, and Z. Well, the one thing I would have probably started with is more money.
Okay.
Because, more money would have allowed me to to scale quicker. But the other thing that I would have done is I would have chosen an industry, and I would have picked dentists, or I would have picked doctors or HVAC companies, or whatever, pick it. Because when you're an advertising agency and we can work, and we do work with all kinds of clients, it makes it difficult for us to advertise. We're advertising based on a location versus an industry, which makes it a little bit more difficult, and it makes it more expensive to advertise for us.
Right.
So I think those would be the two things. I mean, and I probably would have gone quicker into a productized service offering versus just saying, oh yeah, we do websites, and like, how much is it? I don't know. Well, what do you need? Whereas I could say, like, oh, we build websites. Semi-custom websites start at $6,000. Custom websites start at 12, and they go up from there. We built $100,000 websites before. So like, those are the things. Like, I think it would have made things a little bit easier to do those. Have those two options. So,
good advice.
Yeah, I hear you. I'd like to pull it back a little bit. Can we go to the start before you even started your entrepreneurial journey? Was there like a moment in your life that kind of like put that light bulb off in your head? Like, I need to become an entrepreneur. I need to run my own stuff. Or did you just fall into that by fate?
The red pill moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, my father, the way I think was very much something that my father, you know, like I'm very much my father's son, right? He is the guy who always, you know, cracks a joke with the waitress. You know, he's always trying to, you know, make people feel at ease. And I don't know that it was that, but I always felt that there was something more for me than just working for someone else. And it's not, I'm not chasing, you know, I like money. I'm not necessarily chasing that. I want to have an impact. And so I don't know. I mean, there was, you know, it was easy because I moved here and I didn't have any other options, right? There's no tech companies here. I'm not getting, you know, and remote work wasn't an option, you know, in 2004. People just weren't doing that. But, you know, I mean, it's definitely, you know, it's definitely the move was one that kicked it off. Having an interest in websites and, you know, starting to kind of cut my teeth on the code and stuff. And I think Mobile, this area kind of lends itself to small businesses. As I mentioned before, there are 30,000 small businesses in Mobile. This thing keeps rubbing. Sorry.
You're fine.
There are 30,000, you know, businesses and small businesses in Mobile, and no real large ones. I mean, name a company that's headquartered in Mobile or Baldwin County.
That people might know. But that's government contract.
It's not headquartered.
I mean,
here.
Oh yeah, it's not even. It's Australia.
It's not headquartered.
Vulcan.
Here.
I mean,
Volkert isn't
Vulcan.
Vulcan
stamping
is
business. I mean,
their client.
There's not that many. Yes, to answer you, it's hard for me to even think about.
Shoe Station was one, you know, I mean, but they got bought out. So, you know, I mean, like so most ad agencies, when they're in a city, they're going to go out and they're going to go find those headquarters and they're going to do the ad buys for all of their locations. And we just don't have that. So I had to kind of make it work.
That's hard because you have to go to whoever the branch manager is, and then they have to run it up the corporate ladder.
Or you're dealing with a lot of small businesses, which is what we end up finding, and which is fine. But we had to change the offering, right? So we're not offering $30,000-$40,000 websites to somebody who's just a solopreneur,
right?
That is, you know, doesn't need a $30,000 or $40,000 website. We can do that if they want it. It'd look really badass because we'd be able to spend some time on the design and functionality and stuff like that. But oftentimes what we find is people just want something that allows them to put content online and be found.
Okay.
So we focused on doing that really fucking well.
So you do that in the local space. Do you not branch out online, and do you do any online work?
We do, yeah. So we have clients in New York City, California, Florida. You know, we've got one of our biggest clients is out of Colorado, Denver. You know, I mean, so we work, you know, across the United States. Oftentimes those people come to us by way of technology. And so what I mean by that is we specialize in certain content management systems. So people are familiar with like WordPress or something along those lines. You know, we use a content management system called Craft. And the reason why we do that is because we find that it allows us to create the sites that we want to create in the way that they function and how easy they are for people to use and how they work with search engines. So people that care about search engine optimization, one of the things that they don't realize is that a lot of the impact that you are getting is because of the way the site is coded. And so, we pride ourselves on building things really well. We're artisanal in our website building. But so when we get leads from outside of the Mobile area, oftentimes it's, because of those, our knowledge in those spaces, technology spaces.
Do you get a lot of leads, organic growth from your social media?
Yes. Life changed for us when we started advertising online. I mean, it just flat out, business boomed.
Okay.
For us. So I was a reluctant person to put myself on social media. And I had a guy that used to work for me and, he said, let's start a show. And so I was like, I don't know about that, but I'll give it a shot. And the impact that starting that show had, I now know people and am involved in organizations and get recognized. I mean, it's like going to the grocery store and somebody saying, "Hey, aren't you Marcus Neto?" You know, I mean, granted, it's Mobile, right? So like, it's not Hollywood,
Right.
But I'm still appreciative because I'm an introvert.
Right.
There's nothing worse than going to a networking event as an introvert and having to like go up and introduce yourself to somebody and make small talk. But if they already know who you are and they're coming to you and they want to talk to you about something, man, that changes the game.
I mean, that's how we're having this conversation right now. Is we all met each other through Facebook, I believe.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been following you for like 8 years now, 7
Sure
years.
is.
Eight,
I wish
7
we
years.
had known each other a little bit better earlier on.
Yeah, I think I met you when I think it was Ren Bartlett was working at Khalifa Media, I believe
Okay.
it was. He
Yeah.
started it like it was like a Mobile Young Entrepreneurs group
That's right. I do remember that.
way back in the day.
Young
and that's
professionals.
and that's how I got connected with all of you guys.
Yeah.
And that was
Because you came to a couple of the events, if I remember.
that was
correctly.
close to a decade ago almost.
God, man, that seems like
And I mean,
yesterday.
we've just been following each other ever since.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. So social media is important, you would agree.
Yeah.
Do you manage it? Do you manage it for
Yes.
your clients?
Yes, as a matter of fact, before I came here earlier, I was doing some stuff for Vulcan. So I was, creating some email newsletter stuff and, posting to their social media and stuff like that. So yeah, I do manage it.
Where do you see the trend in the future? Like, where do you think short-term video, is it going to be, like, where do you think most of the views are coming from right now?
Well, there's no doubt that short-term, short play,
Short
video,
form.
short form video is definitely really hot right now. I think that's because people like YouTube, and YouTube has really kind of made that something that they want. But it's interesting to watch because Instagram added some video, and then Facebook copied, and then of course now they're owned by the same organization, and then TikTok comes out, and it's like, well, then we got to copy TikTok, and then it's like or Snapchat, and then TikTok, and then honestly, I think anybody that can kind of tries to guess really has no fucking clue. But I think it's easy for us to say, I'm going to chase the new thing.
Okay.
What you really need to pay attention to is where is your demographic. So if you can sit down and define who your audience is. So if I'm selling custom suits that cost $1,000 or more in this market, that would be a lot. So if you're in like a city, make it $5,000 or more. But if you're in this area and you're spending $1,000 or more on a custom suit, and you're advertising on Snapchat or TikTok, you are spending money and just throwing it out the window because the demographic just isn't right for that. But if you're spending it here and on Facebook or Instagram, then you're probably going to hit your demographic. So it's really not. I'm not, as an ad agency, I'm not so much focused in on what the next new thing is. Although, I have to keep my eyes peeled on that. What I'm really focused in on is what is going to work for that client and where are their people hanging out. Because I need to move that needle. Because if I can make that needle move, then they'll rely on me more and they'll spend more money with us, and we get better results.
I love that.
Yeah, that's some gold. I think we skipped over something that we probably shouldn't have. We touched on networking a little bit. Justin mentioned Facebook and all of that. I would assume in your line of work, you say you're an introvert, but you're pretty damn good at networking. How has networking impacted? Because I'm an introvert as well. I hate going out and talking to people, but I know it's vital in order to succeed and get to the next level. How has that changed your life just over the course of your life?
How has networking changed it? Oh man, like I never really understood that that saying of your network is your net worth until I really started networking. When you can like I said, when you can walk into a room and know some people, it makes it easier. But I think the biggest thing is, like, in business, people are real quick to ask, hey, who do you know that does XYZ, right? And it's if they can refer you, then that's golden. So the more people that the more likely that is going to happen. But I mean, even beyond that, like, networking in person is one thing. But when you look at social media, if you can use social media as a platform to get your voice out and become the expert in whatever it is that your space is, so crypto or advertising, like, if you can get your name out as the expert in that in your area, then, people will know your name. And then when you go to these events or when you go to the grocery store or when you're at the gym or whatever, people are going to recognize you. I mean, and that just makes things a hell of a lot easier. And it also means that they're more likely to buy from you. And I'll tell you a quick story. I remember distinctly, I was on the executive committee for the Eastern Shore Chamber of Commerce, and the then president sent out a request for proposal. He didn't send it to me, even though it was something that I could have done. And when I found out, I wasn't really necessarily upset with him, but I was like, I asked him, I was like, why didn't you send this to me? I do this and I'm on the executive committee. And so I figured he would know what it was that I did, but he just looked at me and said, I didn't know that you did that. And like a week later, I heard that same thing from somebody. And I vowed at that point that I didn't want anybody to ever be able to say that, at least in this area, that they didn't know what Bluefish did. And so that's when I started to kind of lean into our advertising, our use of social media, and how we, spread the word, that we're out there and that we do good work, and these are the things that we do. And it wasn't too long after that that we got Business of the Month for the Mobile Chamber, Small Business of the Year. I got a prestigious award, not prestigious, it was some other award from a group in Mobile called The Grind, and then got an Eagle Award. All these awards started coming, and none of that would have happened if I hadn't kind of put myself out there like that. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, there you go, guys. You hear it every single episode. Every single guest that comes on says something similar to that. Your network is your net worth.
We've heard that almost every episode.
Over and over
I've said
and
that
over
almost
again.
every episode.
And the other thing, too, is you are who your closest 5 friends are. Everybody says
That's
that,
accurate.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have to pay attention because the people that you're hanging around with they're the ones that you're having conversations with, and what are you talking about? Are you talking about, the football game, or are you talking about crypto and how you just made $200,000 in 24 hours?
Or lost.
I hate hearing that. So, yeah.
I've been on both ends of that.
I feel you.
Yeah. So I like that. So I don't think you guys have been thoroughly introduced yet. He runs a pretty much stick on TikTok. It's called Millionaire in the Making, where he documents everything that he does every day to become a millionaire. How much he spends on lunch, breakfast, dinner, how much money he's making from his agency or stocks that day. And you've grown to about 240,000 followers right now.
Nice.
And how
Roughly.
many views do you think you get per week organically?
Anywhere from 500 to 2 million. It's social media. You never know
It's
what you're going to
incredible.
get.
And how old are you?
22.
Nah,
22.
You suck.
So yeah. So
Here.
as a group right now, I think I pushed 700,000, 800,000 this week just from my social media. Our YouTube just did, I think, 70,000 in 3 weeks. But I mean, we have 10 people running this organization. Right? We've got I think I have 7 or 6 VAs right now running.
And you
it.
guys are focused on that.
Yeah. So we're trying to capitalize on the organic reach from social media. Is that something you would push towards your clients? Like, hey, you need to be posting more videos, more short-term, more. People need to know who you are. We're starting, it's like a personal branding agency where we're just recreating exactly what we're doing, where, we just need to get 30 to 60 clips a month minimum, post 2 videos a day to either YouTube, TikTok, preferably both, and get our face and names out to as many people as humanly possible. And right now, I don't think it's ever been easier with
100%.
TikTok, YouTube,
Yeah.
Instagram. Back 5, 6, 7 years ago before short form, it was kind of hard to go viral on Instagram. It was hard to go viral on Facebook.
100%.
YouTube was just a pain. Now you post
10 seconds.
10 seconds of video and 1 million people could see it in a day
Yeah.
if the
And know
algorithm
your
picks
name.
it up. Yes.
And follow you.
Yes. So is that something that you've noticed and you're working on currently, or?
It is. We were talking before, and I mentioned, I've been doing a podcast, and I've got a video thing that I don't know. We call it Marketing Madness, and it's basically like, I record a video talking about some aspect of advertising and try and explain it to in simple terms, because some of the things that we deal with, like search engine optimization and stuff like that, is not. Not everybody gets that, right? And so. But I've been I held back on jumping back into those in the new year because I'm not quite I'm not convinced that the way that we were doing it was the right way.
Okay.
And I haven't had time, and I really what it is I just haven't had the brain power to think that through and figure out where we're going to land. But it has to change. One, because as you all are finding out, like producing that many, those many videos is extremely labor intensive.
Yes.
And I can't, and I can't afford, but I can't afford, right? Because if I do that, my people won't be working on billable work. They'd be working on our stuff. And so it's a balance of like, well, how much do we need to expose ourselves and, get, business in, but we also need to do the business, right? We need to create the things that people are coming to us for. So it's kind of a balancing act, but at the same time, like I know that we need to be out there and we need to be doing some of these things, if for no other reason than just to kind of play around and see what their impact is on us so that we can then relay that to our clients and, hopefully get them to bite, on those things as well.
Do you mind sharing what exactly you were doing with it? You said Marketing Madness. Were you just posting on Facebook or how was it?
Yeah, Marketing Madness, it was usually, when they started out, they were a little bit longer, 6-7 minutes. And now I think we've got them dialed into like 2 or 3 minutes. They were small little videos. And, we would post them to Facebook. We'd post them to our website. We'd post them to YouTube, Instagram, and that's where our demographic is hanging out. And so, those were the areas that we kind of pushed that to.
Okay, interesting.
But we weren't breaking it up like you guys are into the
like
short form.
Yeah.
And, I think that might be, that next, the next play is just because everything is such people want to hear it and then they want to move on.
But the difference in short form, like you said earlier, like you could post on Snapchat or TikTok and it could go to Thailand. Like your target demographic's probably not in Thailand. So that's the risk that you take. But also at the same time, like I'm on social media a lot and I know that a lot of the young bucks are pushing agencies hard. So a lot of the young bucks say they do what you do and they don't do the half of it or even a quarter of it. Like they do shitty work.
Yeah.
And I see them signing absolutely insane deals just by posting short form content because there's people out there that need the work. Like the target demographic is there.
Mm-hmm.
They need the work. So I think you could greatly benefit if you were looking to expand, nationally.
Yeah.
Definitely
could.
Value.
Yeah. No, you're definitely, food for thought. Yes.
Because you would run circles. I mean, just not knocking anybody who's doing that, but you would definitely run circles around a lot of people who are saying they know how to do stuff. And I've seen some of the websites you build and some of the websites that are built, and it's a world of a difference.
I've been building websites since we used to slice up images and use spacer GIFs. And you guys don't even know that we had to do that back in the day.
Yeah, we just drag and drop these days.
Yeah, drag and drop.
Well, and the drag and drop is nice, but what people don't realize is in order to do the drag and drop, there's a lot of bullshit code that has to be injected into the front end of the website. And that may seem unsexy, but all of that extra code makes it more difficult for Google. They use, and I'm going to get real technical here for a second, they use spiders to crawl the internet, and those spiders have a difficult time getting to the content the crappier the code is. So if you're on Wix or, even WordPress sites that use, a lot of drag and drop type functionality, if you inspect the code on those, it's just like horrible, but if you inspect the code on one of our websites, it's like, oh yeah, I can see exactly what they're doing. And hey, look, there's the content. So it makes it a hell of a lot easier for Google to get to it. That's the whole goal. Make it easy for Google. I want to make it easy for my clients. I want to make it easy for people to navigate when they pull it up on a phone or a smart device. And from there, it takes care of itself. But we see results like we had a bankruptcy lawyer over in Pensacola that we worked with. They didn't exist online. We created a website for them, and in less than 3 months, they were on the first page ranking for bankruptcy lawyers in Pensacola.
That's free traffic.
Free traffic. They weren't paying for it or anything. We just built the website in the right way.
So you spoke on the evolution of building websites, and one thing me and Justin have been touching on a lot is AI. Have you put any thought into how that's going to affect?
100%. And anybody that isn't is insane, because it's not just going to affect my world. It's going to affect everybody. Hey, if you're listening to this is going to affect your world too. So we've been playing around with ChatGPT and some of the other tools that are available online. And even for things as simple as, hey, how does this do on writing content for clients? Not so great right now, but it's a good start. Well, what about headlines for ads? A little bit better. Or, like you can kind of play around with things and see where it's going. But yeah, if you're not playing around with AI.
Yeah, 100%.
I think, let me touch on that. It might not be that it's not the best at writing content. It might be that your command isn't the best.
Oh, man, you hurt me.
Well, I mean that in the best way.
I'm sure.
Jordan Peterson touched on that. We aren't even 1/1,000,000th capable enough to use it to its full potential.
100%.
I mean, I was playing with it last night on acting like an ISA, inside sales agent. My command for just one sentence was almost a paragraph just for it to shoot out 1 to 2 sentences. Like, it has to get direct. Like, you need to tell it exactly what to do, how to do it, what responses it shouldn't kick out. So a lot of people aren't using it, which it's only been out for
a month,
2 months.
Yeah, and
It's
the version we have
insane.
is there's no way it's 1/100th of what's actually out there.
No, I mean, it's insane to think. I mean, probably about a month or so ago, Jared, who is my project manager, called me into his office and he was like, "Hey, take a look at this." And he goes, in the little window, he was like, "Create a website that has a logo on the left-hand side, navigation on the right, and, image rotator, blah, blah, blah."
Knocks out the code.
Knocks out the code like it was nothing.
Yes.
But you have to know what to tell it to
It is
do.
a tool.
Well, that's it. I think a lot of people are looking through a pessimistic lens and thinking that it's just going to take their jobs.
Oh, it will.
But if you look at it optimistically,
it's going to take their jobs
well,
for sure.
no, I think if you look at it optimistically and the knowledge that you already have, knowing building websites and everything in the marketing world, I think it's just a tool. Just a tool on your tool belt.
I think if you're not using it, it's going to take your job.
What he said.
Because
Think so?
now it goes from
God, yes, man. Are you kidding?
it goes from being creative to just shifting it to quality control. And you're going to use 1/10 of the brain power on quality control than actually creating the actual content.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to look professional now with AI. Everyone is going to look professional. Now people are just going to be looking for the small mistakes. That's what's going to set the standard now.
If you can proofread, then or if you can
If you know what to look for.
if you can edit. And I think the other thing too is we need to change the focus in the United States. The school system here is broken.
Horribly.
Why am I still having to remember dates of wars when I can literally look anything up in 2 seconds and know exactly what I need to know? Like, I don't need to memorize that shit anymore. But what I should know is I should understand this kind of technology and how to use it for the things that I might need to do. So, for instance, in our space, a lot of people are talking about AI and its ability to write blog posts or content for clients or even social media posts, right? And so that capability is definitely there, but it's still going to require somebody with some
Creativity.
and some command of the language to go back through it and make sure that it reads how you would want it to read, because it's not quite there, but it can be. And I think if it's only a month old, and we just had what Microsoft just announced that they're going to
Baird
start,
or Bard, whatever it is.
yeah, and then Google also in their competing announcement is talking about how they're backing this. I mean, where's it going to be in a year?
Where's it going to be in a month? Where's it going to be in a week? I mean, AI can adapt so rapidly that we could have a whole new economy almost overnight, which we kind of do now. I mean, now everybody and their brother can be a social media manager, but who's going to be able to do that correctly?
Yeah.
And now it just basically just raised the bar. So now the pretenders are going to be knocked out. The people that aren't efficient, the people that don't have that creative vision,
If
are
somebody
going to be
has a
knocked out.
discerning eye. And I think we mentioned this earlier, is that, yes, those pretenders will be knocked out for those people that can discern that they are pretenders. But what may happen is if we don't, as a culture, if we don't raise our knowledge about how those things work and how they are used, then we'll still have a ton of people that don't know any better, and they'll get taken advantage of. Because that's what's happening right now, even without AI. So AI, all it does is make things a little bit easier and speeds things up, but it doesn't necessarily take that. It doesn't take that lack of knowledge out of the equation.
Right.
That explanation of what SEO is or what somebody should be doing as far as advertising.
it could just speed up what you're doing wrong. And you get there faster.
Exactly.
And now you're just
gets you-
spreading it.
Well, I mean, it gets you to failure faster. Is that a good thing?
Yeah, direction is so much more important than speed. But once you got the right direction, then crank up the speed just a little bit incrementally until you're just sprinting forward. So, what are some practices now that we're talking on AI and going down this rabbit hole? What are some things that you're personally going to implement into your business using whether it's Chat GPT or Dolly or any of the many different rabbit holes we can go down?
Well, right now we are exploring its use in writing content. So headlines, body copy, whether it's for a website or for social media, we're playing around with that. I wouldn't say that we're actually using, we may use it as kind of like a starting point or a rough draft, if you will. But I could definitely see in the future that it'll be even more. We've actually been using. I wouldn't call it AI. It was more like it was like the precursor to AI. There's an organization that we use their product. It's Russell Brunson, and all of his stuff that he does.
ClickFunnels?
Yeah, ClickFunnels.
Yeah.
And so he was partners with a guy, and I can't remember his name. It's Jerry or something along those lines. And they had their version of AI.
Oh, the writing, where it would write your copy, the copywriter. I had that.
Yeah, and so that was kind of a very rudimentary
funnel scripts, I think is what it's called.
Correct. I'm sorry, I couldn't remember it. So basically, what it was is, for those of you that aren't familiar, like you would go in and it would give you this page, and you would fill in some basic information, and it would spit out whatever content it was that you were looking for. Still not very good, and really all that was doing was like mixing and matching words and trying to make something that sounded good. Whereas AI is literally like going out and scouring the internet and learning, and then spitting out language that that we would use, and so we've been using it for a while, but I still think it's kind of early, if you will. But it's getting all kinds of press.
If you can master it now, we are early, and anybody can use it. But if you can master it right now, you are going to be years ahead of the pack. I mean, it might take another year for people to really grasp it. If you can really put more brain power into it right now, you are going to just lap the competition. And
I'll go on a limb and say if you still haven't grasped it in a year, then you're being left behind. I mean, it's like the guys that bought Bitcoin at $4,000 versus the guys that bought Bitcoin at $70,000. I mean, like, I'd rather be at the 4,000 group than the 70,000 group.
Those are the ones that can identify trends.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think as humans we're ever going to truly grasp it. I think it learns way too fast for us to ever even be. I don't even think the people that are building it right now are like at the same level.
I mean, it's just like you have an animal that you're in control of. You're not going to be able to 100% control it, but you can kind of guide it in the right direction.
And that's kind of scary.
So do you fear it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, because if it's going to, I mean, it's already smarter than us right now.
100%.
It is 100% smarter than us. At what point does it become smarter than the parameters they use to control it? And at what point does it just get to the point where if you are not using it, you're just obsolete? Mm-hmm. And at what point does, if we go down this rabbit hole with Elon's brain chip, Neuralink, at what point does the human body have to integrate with AI to just stay happy medium, net neutral?
We're close now, aren't we?
I think in our lifetimes that will happen. Maybe not the entire population.
So I fear for it, but I'm also the first one that would say, sign me up for the brain chip. If I can get 5% more IQ, I'll give you 100.
See, that's a big risk. That's too big of a risk.
And then what do viruses do when you get a virus in your own brain?
Man, I've got plenty of viruses I'm already worried about. there's people with far worse viruses than that.
I hear you. It is interesting to think about, but at the same time, it's kind of like one of the things that we need to keep in mind is that the way that money is made is through creativity. And it is extremely difficult to get a machine to have that same capability of thinking creatively.
Yeah.
So if we can just keep that in mind, like I do worry about AI, especially when you've got areas that are, we've got, what's the group out of Massachusetts or whatever that builds all the dog robots and stuff that have guns on them.
I can't remember their name.
You know what I'm talking about, but I'm sure everybody's seen those videos, because when you see them, you're like, holy crap, that thing could chase me down and kill me in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So now integrate AI into that and give it a thinking brain. It's a little bit worrisome, especially when you have areas like San Francisco that are saying, hey, robots can shoot humans if needed.
Yeah. What point does the police force get just?
Yeah. What time
changed for AI?
At what point?
That might not be a bad thing though, because then you take out the malicious intent that sometimes humans have. So there's positives and negatives to both.
But there's a human behind that programming it.
Yeah.
So Google, most people would say is, hey, it's a great search engine, but Google definitely filters and pushes certain things forward. And all the social media platforms.
Twitter
do the same
highlighted
thing.
that.
Yeah, exactly. The Twitter files. And so it's like, okay, well, there's still a human behind the programming. So
Which has bias.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit scary.
I see waves. I want to catch the wave before it starts to barrel, and I'm gonna hop off of it before it crashes. I see us.
Let's hope so.
I mean, I see the beginning of a wave where if you can adopt AI right now, you are going to have a fun ride for the next possibly year or two because you're going to be able to lap the competition.
Yeah, 100%.
If you integrate it, we were just talking last night. There's some evil stuff we're doing on the back end, efficient things we're doing where I don't have to go hire 100 ISAs right now. I just need 2 different programs, and I could have 100 different little bots replying to clients, almost as if a human's doing it.
Yep.
Almost like I could be shooting text out. People could be having full conversations with an AI that me and you would never be able to tell.
Right.
I mean, you can program it to almost be the most highly proficient, highest converting sales agent
And
you
that's
can even think of.
Been available in Facebook for at least
while.
over a year.
Yeah.
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 So
And the thing is, they're free right now. So flipping it over and like putting money into play, if I'm thinking from a money perspective, how can I capitalize on AI, not just in my life or business? You can invest in it. I mean, what are the chances AI doesn't 10x, 20x from here in the world markets?
10x in the next month.
There's no way.
Very
Yeah.
much good.
Yeah.
So just food for thought for the viewers. I'm no financial advice or anything, but I'm just saying if you want to flip it over and put money into it,
There's
may not
almost
be a bad
there's
play.
just almost no excuses now. I mean, you have something that's free that could revolutionize the economy overnight, which it already kind of has. There's almost no excuses right now.
When you have school systems literally saying homework is obsolete, I mean, how long have we been trying to change the school system?
That's a good question. How do you even do that? Because they're 20, 30, 40 years behind us. In order for them to learn what's new and current, they're going to
They're not trying to learn what is new and current. They're
That's
only
the bad
saying
part.
that homework is obsolete because now students can go and fill in a little a box and get their essays, spit out at them.
That's why I think group work is a little bit more important than just standardized test. There's a problem, do whatever it takes to solve it instead of just regurgitating things that are just
100%.
useless.
Yeah.
Useless information for the most part. But the other side of that is they're making you learn useless information to solve a problem. So think of it more of they're trying to teach you how to solve a problem rather than just learn and regurgitate useless information. I mean, it works for the masses. It probably doesn't work for the 5%, the 1%. I mean, I'm sure. Let me paint a picture. Were you like a solid C student in high school?
100%.
I paid other
hated
people.
school.
I paid other people to do my work for me, and I told them, do not get me an A and get me a red flag. Get me a solid C, so I don't raise any radars. And I was giving them $5 per paper that they would do for me, and that was in 10th, 11th, 12th grade for me.
Who's laughing now?
I mean, that taught me how to have employees at 10th grade. I mean,
I think the school system is broken because people like you and we just met, so I can't speak to you, but I know you well enough to know that there's no way that you did well in school. It doesn't capture your interest because our minds think differently. We want to do things. We want to create. We want to solve a problem. We want to make some money. We want to meet the people. We want to do all those things. And that is such a small percentage of the people in the world that think that way. So they don't know what to do with us.
Hot take. I think school's there to suppress you guys or
Oh,
us,
100%.
us in general. I think it's built and established the way it is to suppress free thinking. They want you to follow the rules, and you follow the rules, and you get by.
you be a good employee. They groom you to be a really good employee, which could be good because if you're a 1 to 5% kind of person, you have a whole network of employees you can capitalize on. And that's kind of evil. Don't quote that. But I mean, for the most part, you can usually tell who is going to just succeed in life in high school. You can kind of just tell. You know that the A students that are going to these, just wonderful colleges, I mean, they might be making 100, 200K a year. Yeah. Wonderful quality of life, wonderful employee. That is absolutely amazing. But you look for that solid C student that's taking a nap, that's got 3 other people working for him, and he's just doing enough to get by, but he's being efficient. Man, that guy.
You speaking from experience?
Oh, 100%. I think Robert Kiyosaki, and I'm going to butcher this, he said, the A students work for the B students. The C students own the buildings that the B students work in. The D students, they just, clean the place up. Those are the guys just cleaning. They're the maintenance team. They're everybody else. So do with that information what you will, but a solid C student is dangerous.
Yeah. So you speak 100%. on different levels of success. Let's kick it back to you. How do you define success? What fulfills you in life? What wakes you up every single day?
Yeah, so mine's going to be a little bit different than most people. Like I'm further along in years, and so my goal is to make an impact on people and on our area. And so over the last number of years, I have done everything that I can to kind of educate our geographic area about the benefits of advertising, of how to do things correctly online, how to build websites the right way. And so I'm really kind of chasing that. It'd be nice to make some money at the same time, and we do, but it's not our primary focus. But success to me would be, having a good, enjoyable business that I get to go to every day, that employs people that I enjoy working with, where we're all working on projects that we enjoy, and where we're making an impact on people's lives, or and that can take the form in our world of handling the advertising for a client and making them more money. And now they're able to spend more time with their family, or they're able to hire that extra employee, or they're able to take that vacation. And so that's how I view success.
That's interesting. I've come to find out that a lot of more successful people, they don't chase money. They value something else. And it's just cool to hear that from multiple perspectives, and you as well.
Yeah. It's not I'm doing another speaking engagement tomorrow, and a friend asked me to speak to a small group of like a dozen business owners in Huntsville, and he chose the topic, and it was basically, it's like how to be involved in the community but not let it like completely grenade your business. And when you have the desire to like in my case make an impact, it's real easy just to kind of give, and it's over the years, I've learned that, well, I want to give, but I have to strategically give of my time and energy and money. I can't just give it, all the time, because people will take advantage of you. And next thing you know, you no longer have a business, and you have a lot of people that have really appreciated what you've done for them, but you have nothing to show for it. And so I still give, but I just have to be a little bit more, more fine tooth with it. But you're correct, though. I think, everybody they have something that drives them. And oftentimes what I find is if you peel back the layers, it's not money. Okay, well, you want money, but why? Well, I want security. Why do you want security? Well, I grew up in a household that I didn't know where my next meal was coming from. Or, hey, I want to make more money. Why? Well, I never got the girl. And I want the car, and I want the vacation, and I want the house, because I think that's going to get the girl. It's not, but I think that's going to get the girl. What really gets the girl is being a mature human being that can communicate and meet somebody's needs and, whatever. Well, that's another topic.
Freedom.
Yes, freedom.
A lot of people just want freedom. And I mean, people view money as evil, good. It's just a tool.
Yep.
It's just a transfer of energy. That's all it is. It's a transfer of wealth, transfer of power. If you're just chasing little green dollar bills your entire life, you're going to be miserable. But there becomes a point where, I think it's about $75K a year just to be comfortable, and you don't really have to worry as much depending on how much you spend.
Yeah.
There's a level of freedom where money can buy the ability to be comfortable. Mm-hmm. You're going to be definitely uncomfortable if you can't pay your electricity bill at the end of the week. I can tell you're probably not going to be happy. People are like, oh, money doesn't buy happiness. It's like, well, no fucking shit.
Yeah.
Well, fucking obviously, but I can tell you I'm going to not be unhappy when I pay my electricity bill, whenever I don't get foreclosed on, whenever my car gets repossessed. I know for a fact I won't be happy. So let's avoid those situations.
Yeah. I've got a question for both you guys, because I think a lot of our viewers are in the shoes where it's just like money is their motivation at the moment, because a lot of our viewers are younger, just to preface.
Yeah.
To both of you guys, when did you kind of flip the switch and you're like, okay, it's more than money? There's something more, like you said, there's a different type of fulfillment. Have you always been like that?
After I started making more than $75,000 a year.
I mean, is that agreeable?
Oh yeah,
it really is.
No, so until you get the money?
No, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
And I'm tongue in cheek. I do think that there's some level of, when you get to a certain level of success, then you no longer have to focus on that. But when you're in the midst of it, like right now, I'm in the midst of like a crunch. I was artificially put into a crunch in my business, which hopefully we'll get to here in a second. But because of that crunch, that cash flow crisis, if you will, which every business goes through, if you're starting a business and you don't have some sort of cash flow crunch while you're doing that business, then you might not be pushing. Yeah, it's coming, or you're not pushing hard enough. But we are in a cash flow crunch right now, and so right now, I'm really focused on fucking money.
Yeah,
I'm chasing dollar bills, but at the same time, like I've not lost my why. Why am I doing this? And one real quick thing that I wanted to go back to, because you mentioned A, B, and C students. And the interesting thing is people are like, well, yeah, but so-and-so CEO went to Wharton Business School and did this and that and the other thing. And it's like, he's still an employee. Yeah. He doesn't own the fucking business. He's a CEO. He has a great education. He makes a lot of money. And if that's what you want to do, then go and do it. But he doesn't own the business.
Yeah,
he's still an
absolutely.
employee.
People say they want to be the CEO. I'm like, nah, I want to be the majority shareholder.
Yep. I want to be what is Warren Buffett, and I want to be the guy that just sits in the back and he does way more than that, but just counts his dollar bills. I want to be what's that duck character on the
the Scrooge?
Yeah,
Not Scrooge. Yeah.
Yeah, where he just jumps into the gold, the pile of gold.
Oh yeah.
Well, let's use this as a segue to go back into business. And you talked about you're in a crunch right now. So do you mind sharing some of the downfalls you've went through in business?
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, right now, and I can't get into too many details, but we're currently involved in a lawsuit. So we're an ad agency, and we buy TV spots and radio spots for folks. And in the process of doing that, oftentimes what happens is you sign up for those spots. You get billed. You bill the client. The client pays you. Everything is hunky dory. Well, we had a client that walked on a large half a year's worth of income as a company, half a year's worth of income of invoices on us. And we're currently in a lawsuit, so I can't really say anything more about it. But, that's one of those situations where it's like, holy shit.
That hurts.
I mean, it really hurts because you want to talk about, creating a cash flow crisis. When you have, a huge sum of money just like evaporate and you can't do anything about it. And mind you, we had contracts.
Yeah.
We did everything right by the book. But if you're in one of these situations, just be aware, like somebody can detonate your business and you wouldn't even know it. All they have to do is go to you, and if you sell watch bands, and I can come to you and say, you know what, I know you're only making like 100 of these a week, but I want you to make 2,500 for me. And I'm going to sell them, and we're going to start this business. You're going to wholesale them to me. I'm going to sell them on Amazon. If I don't pay you for 3 or 4 months, you can't do anything but sue me. Well, what happens if
dissolve the LLC at that point?
You can, but if you've had that LLC for 15 plus years, you're a little bit hesitant to do it.
Yeah.
But right now where I'm at, I'm having some of those same do I start Redfish? What do you do in those instances? Because I didn't ask for this. I wasn't irresponsible. I did everything that I should have done, and I just had somebody kind of screw me.
Shit happens. Life happens. You get knocked in the mouth, and what's going to happen after that?
You got to keep rolling.
And the scary part about owning a business is all of that falls on your shoulders, not your employees. So if you can't pay your bills at the end of the month, you've got 20, 30 plus mouths you got to feed. You got to be writing those checks. You got to figure, you might have to go take a loan out to pay your employees that month.
Yep.
And, people, look bad upon these like 1% kind of people, the people who own the businesses. They don't see the back end where it's like, they might not have gotten a paycheck for 1 to 2 years. Their employees were making more money than they were from the start. And sometimes you might not be able to eat just to be able to feed your employees and keep the business going. Yeah.
There have been a number of times where, my employees have been paid and I haven't, right?
Yeah.
And then they're also, I can't tell you the last time I had a really good night's sleep.
Trust me, Oh, I feel you.
Right? I mean, I can't remember the last time I slept all the way through the night and like woke up and was like, wow, that was amazing.
Just stress?
It's been years for me.
Stress, man. I mean, like, and people don't really think about the other thing too. Is like, okay, well, I've got this great notoriety, and you're going after this, and you're like, you've got it. I mean, I'm not even. So I mean, like, you're chasing this notoriety. You want to be known, and then you go out, and people know you.
Yeah.
There's no anonymity anymore. So everywhere you go, you're on. So you can't go out in your flip flops and your,
That's real.
your
That's
dirty
real.
shirt. You have to like present yourself in a certain way and always be expecting that somebody's going to go, "Hey, Justin, man, I haven't seen you in a while."
Yeah,
Right.
I don't get to have these conversations with many people because a lot of people aren't stuck in the grind, but it becomes your life. It's 24/7.
100%.
All the weight falls on your shoulders. It's a ton of responsibility. I haven't had a good night's sleep in almost 2 years.
Yeah.
The only time I get a good night's sleep is if I go 5 or 6, 7 days of getting 2 to 4 hours of sleep a night, and then I just go into a coma for like 10 hours.
I'm close. It's been about 6 months. I've had about this past weekend. I think I had like 8 hours of sleep the whole weekend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just stupid shit like that. So when you are at work and you look at your boss and you're like, why the hell does he get all the benefits of freedom and money and blah? It's because he's probably not sleeping a whole lot. And he's got a bunch of stress on him. He's at times his credit's been maxed to the hilt and all kinds of other shit. And you don't have to deal with that. He does. He took the risks. You didn't. So
Yeah. I feel attacked. I'm listening to you right now. I'm like, dear God, you're just painting a picture of my life right now.
Yeah.
But the good part is we might have to do this for 2 years, 5 years. And if you position yourself right, you could be set for life to the point to where you can get a good night's sleep. You can take a vacation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of upsides, but you need to be okay with that being reversed. That's like when if you put any money into stocks, crypto, you might double your money.
Or
but
lose
you
it
need
all.
to be very okay with getting your money cut in half.
Yeah.
You need to be okay with either outcome happening. And if that costs me, a couple of months, years of good sleep, so that way one day I can just say, I'm going to turn it off and take off for a month or two, or at that point, just give it to my kids one day. It's worth it. I'll give up 2 to 5 years worth of freedom to be free for life. Delayed gratification. It's a art and a skill that most people can't appreciate.
But you're more disciplined and able to do that than most people. I've heard your story, so so I get it.
All right, let me ask you this because I just like asking people in general. I believe in order to become successful, you have to build a few enemies along the way. Have you dealt with a lot of people, I would just to be frank, shitting on your name, on your come up? A lot of people hating on what you're doing because you're doing better than them in life?
I don't know that it's because I'm doing well. I don't know. You'd have to ask them why they hate me. Actually, I mean, I've just started to answer it in that way. I'm like, wait a second, I don't know what their motives are. I mean, it's always disconcerting when you hear that so and so thinks you're an asshole or whatever the case may be. But I don't know. Like it used to really hit me hard, and I had to just kind of realize like that just kind of comes with the territory, and they don't know who I am. Because if they knew me, then they would definitely not think about that. I'm not an asshole in business. I treat people overly fairly to the point where, we've had some instances where I was definitely in the right and still did, the thing that I shouldn't have, like giving people all their money back and just saying like, hey, no hard feelings. Like, let's just, go our separate ways or whatever. And sometimes you have to do those things. But, like, it doesn't matter. Some people are still going to just like, they're just going to think that you're that guy in their mind because you didn't do what it was that they needed you to do in the time that they needed you to do it. So, yeah.
I think that speaks volumes right there with you just saying you don't know. Like it genuinely just shows you're moving fast enough that doesn't even make a difference.
No, I'm not worried about it at all.
I think I asked that because I know a lot of our audience, the young ones, do worry about that because they're at that pivotal point where they take that first step. And when you take that first step, everybody's chomping at you like, what are you doing? Don't do this. Go this way, that way.
Yeah, I mean, and it's been talked about quite a bit where, family and friends are the first ones to say, hey, they're trying to drag you back down the ladder, right? But then when you make it, they're like, oh man, I know Justin. He's so cool. Like, man, he's got all these houses and blah, blah, blah. But when you're on the up and going, making your way up the ladder, it was like, dude, he's such a deadbeat, man. He doesn't even want to drink with us or hang out.
They try to pull you down
Yep.
until the point where they're asking you to pull them up. That changes very quickly.
Yeah.
You know, it transitions from, like he said, they're trying to pull you down to they're asking for a handout to bring them up. So that's why whenever you first start, you need to pay a lot of attention to the ones that don't support you and the ones that are telling you, hey, you don't need to work so hard, or, you know, come out with us this weekend, or just somebody that's just trying to get you to be normal. Pay attention to the one or two friends in your life that say, I believe in you. And those are the ones that you need to pick up and bring with you. Rising tide lifts all ships. I say this almost every episode. When you try to become an entrepreneur and you go out on your own, you're going to get a lot of hate. You're going to be uncomfortable, but it's going to highlight who needs to be on your ship when it sails. And I've been telling, me and him have been talking about this. I believe friends can do business. Mm-hmm. Friends should be able to do business. You cannot do business with people that are not your friends. So friends can work together, family can work together, but when stuff starts getting resistant, there's static, there's grit, there's a lot of underlying issues outside of business. It could be character flaws, it could be resentment that they've, you know, just been suppressing.
I'm going to interrupt you for one reason. I think a majority of those problems are communication. I think actually a majority of the human problem is communication.
Yeah.
Because if you sit down and you write, because one of the things that I've been having a lot of this discussion as well with some of my friends, it's amazing to me how people achieve a certain level of success, and when they look back, it's not that they've left friends on purpose, it's that their friends were jealous of the success that they've made and made it uncomfortable to the point where the person was like, I don't really even want to hang out with these people anymore because every time I hang out with them, they're trying to make me feel bad.
Yeah.
Right. And so, you know, when you do business with somebody, if you spell it out with very specific language and sign it, otherwise known as a contract, that's helpful.
Clear intent.
But also just being very clear in communication and making sure things are, you know, documented and stuff like that solves a lot of those problems. But I'm not going to deny that sometimes you're just dealing with people that, you know, their personalities conflict and stuff like that. But again, it goes back to communication.
Relationships, business, friends, you know, you can tell that if somebody's going to try to stick you out of $500, $3,000, 10 grand, and they don't see the long-term vision, they don't need to be on that ship anyway. Like, I mean, I've had people blow six-figure opportunities with me over $500 where they just try to get me on the short. And I'm just like, you know, if you just roll with me on perpetuity, you'll make hundreds of thousands, millions one day. But, you know, if you want to stick me out of 500 or 3 grand, like, I mean, I will pay that just to get you off my ship so you don't start poking holes in the hole.
1,000,000%.
I mean, but you take the monetary out of it, you take the $500 million, whatever you said. I think a lot of times people just don't see your vision because they're not in your head. Like, they can't. So you can't get mad at them for that. Like he was mentioning his parents, when you first take that first step, they're like, hey, come back here, go this way. You can't get mad at them for not knowing what's in your brain, what you see that is so real, so raw to you, and you know you're going to go get. You can't get mad at them for not seeing that.
It could be a communication thing, like he said. Like, you didn't paint the picture. I mean, we've got it to the point now where we are dumbing it down so much. This is why I love Russell Brunson with ClickFunnels. Yeah. Everything he does is on a whiteboard with smiley faces and stick figures.
Have you ever been to one of his conferences?
Not as in person, but I've watched live streams.
Yeah, the funnel hacking, right?
Yeah.
We went to the one in Nashville that was like right before the pandemic, and I sat there and I was just in awe the whole time. I was in awe. It was one person after another on his stage that has made millions of dollars, basically just breaking things down like what you're talking about.
Man, if you looked at our whiteboard in the living room, you'd be like, who the hell have these guys been listening to? You would look at it and be like, all right, you do ClickFunnels. All right, cool. Yeah. I mean, it could be your fault that you don't paint the picture.
I agree. I'll take a step back and say that I agree. I think it's a big communication problem. Because I went through that with my parents. I told them, hey, I'm going to do this. And they're like, what the hell is that? It took about a year for me to really paint the picture and show them what I meant. And now they understand. So I do agree. I'll take a step back and admit that I was wrong. It's communication.
One little chat GPT hack that I've been doing is at the end of every command, it says, put this on a 5th grade reading level.
Interesting.
And if your consumer, your friends, family can't digest it on a 5th grade reading level, then there's no hope for them. But the average consumer has a 5th grade reading level. And that's not even knocking people. Like, I mean, you ever seen that show, Are You Smarter Than a 5th Grader? I mean,
I'm not.
They'll blow you out of the water. But if you can communicate it in a way where it's literally just smiley faces and stick figures on a whiteboard, that's how 99% of the population is going to be able to digest it. Digesting content is an entire almost career path, learning how to master that, how people digest content. Because we might be able to understand this. 99% of the population is going to hear gibberish for majority of the things that we've talked about on this podcast. But I encourage you, if you hear gibberish, you hear Chinese, pause it and Google it. Learn every part of this. Just learn how to speak the language. Like whenever I'm at real estate seminars when I was younger, if somebody said cap rate, if somebody said rent roll, if somebody said, the net operating income, I would say, write that down, Google it later. Write that down, Google it later. I need to be able to speak the verbiage.
Yeah, we can give them a plug. We can give them a plug. Go watch Marketing Madness. I'm sure there's some tidbits and knowledge in there you can pick up.
Yeah, and I'm going to wax poetic and tell you a little story. So I actually view life as nothing more than one long vocabulary test.
Elaborate.
So I was an English major. I went to James Madison. I was going to be a music. I was a music major. I was a vocal performance. You can't tell now because my voice is all screwed up. But I was going to be a vocalist. I was going to sing opera and do that kind of thing. And I switched to English because somebody told me that if I had an English degree, I could go into business.
Yes.
But what English did was it taught me how, in a very deep way, almost to a fault, how to read, write, and comprehend language, right? So I went and I got my first job as an inside sales guy at a startup company. I don't even think it exists anymore, but a startup company before startups were cool. And I spent a year there. I spent a year there learning what a database was and what APIs are and what the different programming languages and all this other stuff that most people will never understand. Just like we're talking about ChatGPT now, most of the people that are listening to this, well, maybe your audience does, but most people don't know what ChatGPT is. They've never heard of it. They don't understand it. Nothing, right? It's vocabulary, and if we can do what he says and write those things down and show a curiosity and actually learn what those things are, then you can start to have conversations with people. And when you understand those conversations, information comes out that takes you to that next level. And that's where success, oftentimes comes into play. Because if I'm talking to you about crypto and you say, hey, you do blah, 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 and I understand that, and I go and do blah, 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 I make money.
100%. 100%.
I've never heard anybody put it that way.
This is why I love listening to Jordan Peterson. Mm-hmm. And the 12 Rules for Life, I've listened to that book 3 to 4 times over.
No, I've not.
Jordan Peterson, 12 Rules of Life, it's my number one book.
Wow.
Out of 100.
I'm surprised to hear you say Jordan Peterson.
Jordan Peterson, number one book, 12 Rules for Life. I've listened to it 3 to 4 times over, and I don't think I'm even 3% of the way able to comprehend it.
Wow.
I'm going to have to listen to that book 10 times over to really grasp what he's talking about correctly. Now, Alex Hormozy, if you know who that is, he's worth over $200 million now, and he's only 27 years old, $300 million plus.
Don't listen to me, folks. Go listen to whoever it is that he just mentioned. Go listen to him.
Ty Lopez was big on reading a book every single day. Alex Hormozy's like, why don't I just read the same book 10 times over? And I really am going to grasp it. I'm just like, that changed my entire perspective. Now, instead of, bragging about, I read a book a week or I'm listening to a book a week, I'm like, I'm going to take this one book and I'm going to be able to learn it and regurgitate it in a way where I could, preach it to a 5th grader.
So how do you do that? Because I'm so ADHD that I feel like once I've gotten it.
Audiobooks.
Okay, well, there is that.
Audiobooks.
Yes, but also audiobooks.
Audiobooks. And let's take it a step further. If you really want to increase your comprehension skills and the ability to process data in your head, put the audio on 1.5 or 2x speed. I don't know if you've ever done that before.
Yeah.
You do that for a couple of weeks, you're going to be talking twice as fast, you're going to be thinking twice as fast. It's going to hurt for the first week or two. You're going to walk around with a massive headache. But you can you can listen to almost a whole book every single day, twice over, sometimes, depending on how many hours the book is. But 100% Jordan Peterson has a way with words. It almost makes it to where every 5 seconds you have to stop and Google what he's talking about, whatever words he's saying. And just listening to that increased my comprehension skills. It made it to where I sound a little bit more intelligent. I mean, I'm still 99%.
Yeah, you're definitely
deficient.
not intelligent.
No, I'm not there. Like I'm I'm way behind the curve. But
Oh, what are we grading this on?
I
By whose standards?
need to be able to be in a room full of people like Jordan Peterson and understand what the hell they are talking about
get
if I
what
want to
you're
move forward in life.
Yeah.
But that's the difference right there. You want to understand. I think a lot of people would just be like, oh, I don't know that word, move on. I think that's the problem. I think that's why there aren't as many successful people as they are, because they don't want to get to that next level. They maybe say they want to get to that next level, but they don't want to put in the work to get to that next level, which is educating themselves in whatever form that may be.
A lot of people stop trying to get educated after high school and college.
They plateau.
Your education doesn't end at college. Personal development is a lifelong task.
Yeah.
Getting 1% better every day, and you almost triple your value every year.
And I always mention to people that they need to. Oh, I listen to the Joe Rogan podcast and whatever, like him or love him, hate him, whatever. The thing that I appreciate most about him and that I've tried to embody is his curiosity about life. It doesn't really matter what the topic is. He's going to sit down and he's going to have a 3-hour conversation with that person and try and understand a little bit more about where it is that they're coming from and what they think about whatever that topic is.
He does a really good job at that.
He does an amazing job at that.
I mean, he had Elon Musk on for 3 hours twice, right?
I mean, I'd say
At
talk to
least.
Elon Musk for 3 hours, but there's some people that he probably gets on that he's probably like you wouldn't think he'd be interested in, and he is. He's just a sponge.
It's not even about that. It's not about being a good host. It's about his curiosity and his love for life, his desire to suck the nectar out of everything that life has to offer. And so if you can just keep that as something at the forefront of your mind, like, I don't know when I'm going to use this information, but man, this is really fucking interesting. Or if I'm having a conversation with somebody, like find an interest in them, like that, how to win friends and influence people, right? Like make it about them. That's all he does. But he's just curious about all those things. So, like whether you're reading an article online or whether you're reading an article in a magazine or watching a video on YouTube or whatever, if you can just keep that curiosity going for the rest of your life, you're successful.
We keep throwing all these books out. Give me 5 of your top books that changed your life. Ooh. Or let's say 3. Let's not overwhelm people. If you had,
I'll give you some.
3 books that these are like your just tip of the pyramid. This is what if you want to be successful, you almost have to read these books or digest them.
I don't know about that.
Or,
but going into business,
Yeah.
for sure. I always suggest people read the E-Myth.
okay, got that one.
Michael Port has a book Yourself Solid. I prefer the illustrated version because it's easy to read. Don't judge me. Actually, I prefer the illustrated version because the illustrated version is a much bigger format and you can actually write in it. And it's very much a workbook. So I would also think, probably what's Vaynerchuk's latest? Man, I can't remember the name of it. But, like one of the books by Gary Vaynerchuk, because it's going to get your mind right about what social media is and how it should be used. Although I hate to say this, but I think Gary's kind of on his way out as far as, somebody who has a lot of impact. Because I think he said what he's had to say. I don't know if he may reinvent himself, and I hope he does, because he's got a great way of communicating, and he's got an amazing platform. But I haven't heard much from him lately. But and then I would say I'm trying to think of the one by Grant Cardone.
10x rule, sell or be sold.
Sell or be sold. Yeah, sell or be sold. Because I always tell people, like, if you don't like sales, then you just don't know what sales is.
Yeah.
Yeah, where do you want to go to lunch?
Lunch, mine's always sushi.
Yeah, see, I don't want to do
convince
sushi,
you.
but why don't we go get tacos?
I'll meet you in the middle, and if you don't like sushi, we can do
Exactly.
hibachi.
See, it's sales. I'm trying to sell him on going to get tacos, and he wants sushi.
I'm trying to sell you. So
Exactly. See how that goes?
at that point, it's like, let's meet in the middle, and we'll pick a restaurant that neither of us really want to go to, and then we're both just
screwed. So, you get the point. Like, sales is not necessarily the used car sales guy that's like, hey, just sign here, and you get screwed. It's more of a consultative, thing. It's like, hey, I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions and you're going to tell me some information. And then if I have a solution and I like you because I don't want to work with people I don't like, then maybe we can do business together. But
a lot of the time there's a happy medium where it's you win, I win, and we both win. And that's the ideal world in a salesman or any sort of sales environment. The used car salesman give people a bad name, but at the end of the day, if you believe in your product, you should almost be offended if they don't buy from you. It's like, I'm trying to help improve the quality of your life. I believe in it that much that like I almost want to give it to you for free. Just, you need this. And if you can speak with conviction, you can literally change people's lives. I mean, if somebody is starving to death and you're trying to sell them a protein bar and they're just not having it, and you're like, dude, you're going to die if you don't eat this. I mean, you need to just thoroughly convince people that your product is golden, and it needs to be golden too. You have to have actual good product too. Yeah. So those are your 3 books. Give us 3 tips that somebody can do to improve their social media starting today.
Know where your audience is the first one. Because if you're targeting the wrong, like if you're on Facebook, but your audience is on TikTok, then you're going to waste a lot of time. Don't feel, and I hate to say this because you just finished saying that you post, 2 or 3 times a day. But for those people that are starting out, don't feel like you have to do that, because they use that as an excuse to not do anything. Yeah. And it's like, just do something. Like, when we started Marketing Madness, it was like one camera. We didn't have a teleprompter. We didn't write scripts. We barely even knew what the topic was that we were going to talk about. So when I go back and look at those first videos, I'm like, thank God we didn't have an audience, because it would have been really bad. It would have been a train wreck. But what it allowed us to do is cut our teeth and find our voice, and then you kind of move on from there. And so that would be the second thing, which is to be like, get started. Don't step on your own dick. Like, move. And then the other thing, would just be, surround yourself with, people that, this isn't just social media, right? So I'm giving you obtuse things, but if you hang out with people that are of like mindset, that are interesting, that can help you, kind of figure out who you are, what your voice is, and then push that forward. Don't push somebody else's bullshit or what you think somebody else wants to see forward. Push your authentic self forward. And I think most of your audience is going to get that, but there's still a lot of people out there that think they have to be somebody else in order to make that sale. You don't have to. You just have to find who your audience is and connect with them. But if you're looking for like specific social media tactics, if you will, spend money. Like if you're not spending money on, boosting, posts, or, even on, God, man, if you knew, and maybe you do, the analytics that they store about people on TikTok and Snapchat, it's absolutely like scary. Like, which credit service would you like to use to verify that this person makes $75,000 a year?
Facebook used to be bad about that. I used to target my demographics. I'd say I was going to run home value ads to people that were between 35 and 50 and recently divorced, because I knew, or people that Facebook thought were about to get a divorce. That was a weird one you could look at. And I would run ads to those people because I knew they were about to sell their house. And then at that point, I could also get them to buy another house. And then people that are recently engaged, because I know they're going to be looking for a home in the next year.
And actually still do all those, I think.
Yeah. With a 650 plus credit score. Facebook used to get...
The credit score thing, I don't think it's
you
still
can't do that
available
anymore.
on
No, you can't do that
Facebook.
anymore.
Yeah.
I went into it. I mean, I used to put cookies on people's phones and follow them around. Like, there was a lot of stuff on Facebook where if you texted one of my real estate ads, and it would be like text foreclosure to 88,000 on any of my billboards. The moment you click on that link, you are my bitch for 6 months. You are going to see me on YouTube. You're going to see me on Facebook 3 to 5 times a day. I mean, you are going to see me everywhere in your life. Email, text message. I'm going to hit you from every different point, almost like an internet omnipresence. I mean, Grant Cardone was like, I'm going to be like an octopus. I got 8 arms and I'm just slapping you from every different angle.
That's awesome.
And you can do that now with social media. There's no excuse. I mean, you should be paying for traffic. The Art of Paid Traffic is a podcast that I used to listen to.
Really?
The Art of Paid Traffic. My goal was like, I need to be spending $1,000 to $10,000 a day on paid traffic. And that's where we're heading towards right now. I need to just be dumping money into ads, because Russell Brunson was big into this. Like, if you could put, $1 into something and pull $1 out, which makes $2. Well, yeah, pull $1 profit.
Yeah.
If you can put $1 into something and you pull out $2, how much money would you put into it?
All, until it gets to a point where
diminishing returns. Yeah,
yeah. So.
That's the question. Like, how much money would you put into it? Well, as much as I could. Yes. And if you just have a fountain of money, pretty much like a money printing tree, Paid traffic can and will change your life, but it's hard.
And just to touch on that real quick, sometimes people don't spend enough. And at some level, you have to figure out what that point is. Is it, $100 a month? Is it $100 a day? Is it $100 an hour? Like, what is that? So, putting some money into having some ad spend, right? Putting some money into your efforts, and not being afraid, looking around, and you guys have obviously spent some money on, putting together a high quality, studio so that people, aren't inhibited by the quality of, because you want the information to be good.
Yep.
But, and people will listen, right? Gary's always big on, well, when I started Wine Library, I sat behind a desk and it looked like I was a hostage, it was a hostage situation. Well, the times have changed a little bit, Gary. This is kind of what people expect when they see a video on YouTube. They want to see it lit well and the sound to be somewhat reasonable.
Yeah.
So, not being afraid to do that. But I think the other thing, too, is just getting started. So many people just don't get started. And so if you can just get out of your own head and recognize that everybody else around you has the same insecurities that you have, and the thing that sets you, or that will set you apart, is your ability to overcome that. And if you can find your unique voice, and even in another quick story, I stopped by a vape store on the way down. I had some time to blow, and I needed something. I won't go into details, but so I stopped by and I went into one, and they had some products that were different than the others that, because I stopped in like 2 or 3 just to kind of like test to see what everybody had. And I stopped into one, they had different products, and I was like, somebody's getting it, because without a doubt, every single other one had all the same stuff, same prices, same look, same feel, and it was bullshit. So if you can figure out some way to stand out and find your creative voice and just get started, then you'll be light years ahead of all the people that are employees.
That's some good stuff. Let's switch it up a little bit. Knowing what you know now, not just business. I'm talking about Marcus in life right now. If you could go back to yourself coming out of high school, 18, 19, give some advice. I'm stealing Justin's question.
You got me.
Oh, shit, man. God. It would be to start sooner.
Okay.
I wasted 10 years working for somebody else. Now, granted, I went to college, so I wasn't 18. I was probably 22 or 23 when I graduated. So I worked for other people for way too long. If I had to, do it over again, it would be believe in yourself. I still have issues with that, man. Imposter syndrome is a very real thing. And I think if you're sitting there today and watching this and you take one thing out of this, it's like everybody has those same insecurities. Just get started.
That's real. I deal with imposter syndrome huge because I put my life out on social media. That's the number one thing that I do, and to hear you say that, it's pretty cool. But
yeah, no, it's huge. I've mentioned I'm going through this whole lawsuit. Well, it starts fucking with your mind. It's like, I fucked this up. I killed my company, right? I don't deserve to be running, business or whatever, because I have all these people's lives that are my responsibility. But the truth is, I do deserve to run a business. I do know what the fuck I'm doing. Somebody just maliciously fucked me. Is that my problem? No, I'm learning a lesson now, and I'll never make that fucking mistake again.
It exposed an area of weakness into your organization.
And that's learning experiences are areas of weakness.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm dealing with that personally right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just don't. I'm speaking to you directly right now.
Yeah.
Don't listen to that voice, because it's there. It's all the other people that are trying to pull you back down the ladder. They've taken up residency in your head. Evict them.
I hear you. Are y'all familiar with The Mask of Masculinity, that book or philosophy?
What is it?
The Mask of Masculinity?
Break it down for us.
Yeah.
In theory, it's everybody's walking with a mask, right? Like, it's okay, back in school, you may have had a sports mask on, or you may have like a gym mask or a business mask or a real estate mask, or whatever your mask may be, you're always walking around with a mask. And when we're at home, we take that mask off. When we're alone, we take that mask off. Just like you said, you have to go out and put on a different face for everybody that you know all the time.
Turn it off.
Actually, let me clarify. I don't do that anymore.
When did you make that change?
I think, a number of years ago, I just I'm not going to go out just looking sloppy is what I meant in that instance, but I'm not going to be somebody else for somebody. I'm just not. I'm too.
I don't think he's talking about the chameleon syndrome.
Yeah.
I think it's more like, when you first started, because I can relate to that one. When I first started real estate, I was trying to be the real estate guy. Everywhere I was going was real estate. I was just shoving real estate down people's throats. And it took me a while to just say, okay, either I need to convince everyone else that I am the real estate guy, or I need to become the real estate guy.
Yeah.
So that way people they don't even have to ask. They already know.
And I've kind of lived my life as an open book. I mean, there's not a whole lot that I haven't discussed publicly. I don't get into like great personal details, but I think, if I'm having a conversation with somebody and they ask me, a question, I'm going to answer them, whether it's about revenue or, whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. Because I think, so oftentimes we get hung up on, it's that whole, going back to the communication thing, we just get hung up on not wanting to share with people. But the problem is when you're vulnerable with people, they're vulnerable back. And the only way that we can truly have, an amazing, life with our significant others and an amazing life with our friends is if we let that guard down and we are vulnerable with those people. If you can't trust them and you can't be vulnerable with them, then they're not friends and they're not your significant other. They're just somebody that you enjoy spending time with occasionally.
They need to get off of the ship.
They need to get off the fucking ship.
Yeah.
So, if you're in that situation where you don't feel like you can tell, especially your spouse or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whatever, like, man, you need to rethink that, because you need to be able to share anything that might be going through your head. And if they respond in the correct way, like, hey, that's the one. Because I've got that now and it's amazing.
That's deep. So, I mean, just playing into that, you have is it wife, girlfriend, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. You have to allot time to her. Can you talk a little bit about your time management running a business? Just real quick.
Ooh, good question.
All right, cue hour 2.
Just give me a quick rundown on how you manage your time and like.
I can't remember shit. I write everything in or put everything in my phone. So if it's a reminder, hey Siri, add Fig Newtons to the grocery list. I can't remember anything.
Man.
So I create lists for all of my reminders. As far as time management goes, like especially when you're running a business, the more that you can document processes, the more that you can hand things off. The more that things can be written down, and the sooner that you can start writing them down, the easier it will make them. Because I was talking to somebody the other day. Well, I can't remember what the business was, but it'd say home building, because it's something that we both understand, right? How many home builders do you know use a project management app?
A lot of them should, but they
Most don't.
But they don't.
But it's a repeatable process. I'm always going to clear the land. I'm always going to build a foundation. And of course, these are big steps that could be broken down into smaller steps. But it doesn't matter what it was and what it is. And then the benefit, actually, I don't know who it was, but I won't go into that. But the fact that you can write it down means that you can hand it off.
Yes.
If I can't hand it off, then now I own that, and I'm the only one that can do it correctly. But if I document it, then I can hand it off. So it's, I've created all these little systems, and these may seem like stupid things, but honestly, a lot of people don't do that.
Oh, I'm in the process right now where 5 months ago I had 0 employees, and now it's like 8.
Yeah.
After like 5 or 6 months.
Right. And so it's getting to the point. You can't even manage you have to manage everybody else's shit too? Like, nah, you can't remember all that.
I have to write it down in notes on the level of a 5th grader with exact commands, because whatever my output is what my input's going to be. Mm-hmm. And I have gotten very good at taking very, very complex information and dumbing it down, simplifying it, and handing it off to multiple people. And that is an art that has hurt my brain, but I have adapted, and now people say money doesn't buy happiness, wealth, time. Money definitely does buy time, because now I've got 8 people putting in 40 plus hours a week to increase my workload.
So, I know it can't math as hard, but no, so there's that. And I 100% agree with what you're saying. And then the other thing too is just giving yourself some grace. So I went through a divorce a couple of years ago, and when you go through something that painful emotionally, for me, oftentimes the only thing that I could do was wake up in the morning, put on ridiculousness, and just sit there and stare at the TV. And, I beat myself up for a while, because it's like, man, I got people less than a mile away. I had a team of people that were working their ass off while I sat comatose in front of a TV watching something that literally is not doing anything for me other than just occupying my mind and keeping it off of what I was going through. And so, but you have to give yourself some grace in those moments, and you have to learn the art of self-care, whether it's going to the gym, taking a weekend off, or just knowing that, hey, it's 5:30, I got to be at my son's whatever baseball game, my daughter's recital, whatever. Just knowing that, like, hey, business is always going to be there. There's always going to be people, clawing for your attention. There's always going to be somebody that has an emergency. But you know what? That's going to be there tomorrow too. And right now, I just need to be present.
That's big. That's kind of what I was trying to get out of it. It's like, how cutthroat are you on just if somebody comes, hey, I need an hour of your time, you say no, because your time's that valuable. You got to be here. How cutthroat are you to cut that off?
No, I mean, I'm still very giving. I mean, I'm not just going to, get a lot of requests for, for meetings and stuff like that. And sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. And I still have to discern that because I still have to get shit done.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, like, at a bigger level, I think, just having that grace, giving yourself that freedom to say, like, no, I haven't been in the gym. Like, just recently, I was just having all these pains. Like, I had some lower back pain and I wasn't sleeping really well. And Chrissy, she said, it's my fiance, she said, you have two things that you need to do for me today. And I was like, well, really, what are they? She was like, go to the chiropractor and go to the gym. I was like, fuck.
That's a good partner.
It wasn't exactly what I was looking for, but she was right, man. It completely changed my perspective. I walked out of the gym on like a completely different mindset, different level, different everything. And then when I went to the chiropractor and got straightened out, literally.
Breath of fresh air.
Whew, man, I was a new person.
Yeah. If you do not go to a chiropractor, man, you can live a normal life for about a solid 1 to 2 hours after leaving that. Yeah. You just feel like it's like somebody hit the reset button on your body.
Yeah, and then your body's like,
you go quickly back to where it was, and you're just like, damn, I miss whenever I could just operate normally.
Yeah, I feel you.
All right, side note, I got another question. How much longer y'all want to go?
I'm here.
I'm going to ask it.
I got about 30 minutes, and then I got to take off.
Let's cut it at 2.
Cut it off at 2.
Yeah,
all right.
25 minutes.
Let's how we break back into this. So a lot of people, I feel like as they start to get older, value health a lot.
Why are you looking at me when you say that?
All right, sorry, man. Let me look at Justin. All right, so a lot of people, as they start to get older, I feel like they start to value health a lot. Did that come into effect in your life? Did you ever was there a switch that flipped where you're like, I need to value my health and take care of that more?
Mine happened at 16.
Really?
Yeah, my father is from Brazil. My mom hasn't been in the picture. I have no siblings. My father raised me. I was a latchkey kid. We don't use that term anymore. And I came home one day and I had a message on the answering machine.
Okay, you might be old.
I had a message on the answering machine that my father had gone to the hospital and had a heart attack. And it was from that day forward that I was like, I don't want that to be me. I don't want my kids to come home and, well, they wouldn't have to. They'd have cell phones. But I don't want them to ever get that message that their father has had to go to the hospital with a heart attack. So it was at that point that I started, really kind of, I'm a biohacker, and I love, lifting weights. I love, exerting myself. I enjoy reading about different supplements and their effects on the body and, stuff like that. And I don't know. I just, when that happened, it completely changed everything for me. And, it has made my life so much better to be able to focus on health and, taking care of myself. It gives me more energy to be able to do the stuff that I need to do.
Yeah. A prescription I've been giving people is, and tell me if you agree with this, if you can't manage your body and the food that's going in and out of your mouth, you can't manage your finances. It's going to be very hard if you don't have the discipline to.
What's that?
If you can afford to do that. I mean, you see me. I'm eating Panda Express every day, Big Macs, but I also lift 4 days a week.
Well, and that's the thing. I'm at 8% body fat.
Yeah,
I'm trying to gain weight.
Yeah, like I mean, I tell people like if you're working out, at the end of the day, it's calories in, calories out. You're not going to gain weight if you don't, unless you're above your caloric, whatever the maintenance level is, you're not going to gain weight. If you're at a caloric deficit, you could eat nothing but Twinkies and Big Macs all day. You'll still lose weight. Now, that's going to be very hard to do.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. That is not prescription.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if your maintenance level is 3,000 calories a day and you're a big bodybuilder, you eat a couple of, McDonald's burgers throughout the day, that's not going to hurt you. If anything, you need it. You need the calories. Do not take that as an excuse to eat McDonald's for every meal.
So I'm gonna, as the elder in the room, thanks. I'm gonna say a couple of things, and this is to the young guys, right? So don't look at what the other guys are doing in the gym. The competition is right here. It's yourself. I used to work out 6 days a week, hour and a half every time, with a group of guys that kicked my ass every time I went to the gym. I'm talking about high intensity, aerobic exercises. I'm talking about compound movements, deadlifts, squats, all the stuff. And it killed me. I was definitely overtrained, but I had no other choice because I was working out with these guys, right? And the competition at that level was them. When I changed, when I told them that I couldn't work out with them anymore, that I needed to go and focus on some things that I needed to focus on, that changed everything for me. And the other thing that I would say too is, don't be afraid of the doctor. As guys, we have a tendency to, I don't want to go. I started going and getting annual checkups when I was in my 20s, including I don't care so much about my cholesterol. It's bullshit. Go out and read on it. C-reactive protein is a test that you can do for inflammation, which is the bigger problem. And then the other thing too is get your testosterone checked.
That right there. Yes. After the age of 25, get it checked every year.
100%.
It used to be you lose, it's like 1 to 3% of your testosterone every year after 25. I think that number's higher now.
Way higher.
That number's way higher now with all the plastics and estrogen that's in the food.
Without a doubt, every guy that I'm talking to that's over 35 needs to be on testosterone.
I would argue and say almost 30 now. You see a lot of people that are in their 20s on TRT.
Damn.
It's bad. I mean,
are they on TRT because they've been on testosterone before and didn't know what they were doing and abused their bodies?
The food that you're eating now. Think about it this way: when you were growing up,
I'm not denying that because I agree. With you.
Your produce was natural. Your food was a little bit more natural. There wasn't as many, preservatives in the food. Nowadays, everything has preservatives. Everything has, I think it's soy lecithin is what they use as a preservative agent. Everything is just packed full of chemicals. And most people aren't getting the correct vitamins, minerals. I mean, most people have an extreme zinc deficiency. And zinc is one of the most important things for creating testosterone in the human body.
True.
So there's a lot of people under the age of 30 that need to be on TRT. But a diet change, that's the last resort. That's the last resort.
Yeah, and I was going to say, don't be so quick. Do it under a doctor's supervision.
Yes.
Don't just go out and get TRT.
Don't self-prescribe yourself TRT. Don't blast and cruise. I mean, just get a doctor to check your testosterone levels every year. And if you're on a 3 to 5, 8% decrease every year, there's something that you're doing in your diet or your sleep that is wrong.
Not necessarily.
Could be genetics too.
Well, it could be age.
Age too. I think if you're losing more than 5%, there's a diet issue, there's a sleep issue, there's a stress issue.
It just depends on where you're at.
Yeah.
Because, if you're over 35 and you're losing, I don't know percentage-wise, but if you're losing, 5-10% or something like that after 35, that's expected.
It shouldn't be that much per year. 5 to 10% is high. 3% is where it should be.
But you're talking about if somebody has a 500 that they would lose 50 points.
I think even
So they would go from 500 to 450 in a year? That doesn't seem like a very big drop to me when you're 40 years old.
Maybe.
Does it just fall off a cliff?
But then the next year, it should be a slow burn.
If it falls off a cliff, something's definitely fucking wrong.
Yeah.
He's right. It should be a slower burn. But I started TRT, 5 years ago or something like that?
Yeah.
Man, throw away all the bullshit you think you know about testosterone and, just go for the cognitive ability. It cleared up at 3 p.m. because it's 3 o'clock right now and I'm ready to fucking go.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have that problem anymore because, my energy levels are much more stabilized.
Low testosterone is so much more dangerous than high testosterone.
100%.
A lot of people don't know that. Prostate issues, a lot of brain diseases are caused by low testosterone. So if you're under 300,
under 400.
Under 400 realistically. If you're under the age of 30 and you're under 300, 400, you just take the jump. Try everything you can to fix it. If it doesn't work in 6 months, take your vitamins, your minerals.
Don't bother with testosterone boosters. They're bullshit. They don't
100%.
work.
Tribulus and all that other stuff, they don't work.
And by the way, ladies, if you think you are immune, you are not. Because testosterone is something that women need just as much as guys do. you just don't need as much of it, but definitely something that they should have checked out too.
Especially with people with our lifestyles and they're stressed 24/7, your testosterone, you might have just a tank every year, and that's just your slow burn. Is it's just going straight
Can I
down.
just get an IV?
Yeah, that's something that I struggled with too. I got, which I haven't really announced that much. So vulnerability moment. At the age of like 23, 24, my test levels were in the 200s.
Holy crap, dude!
Just because I didn't sleep for years, like I mean, just no sleep. I was living off Big Macs, Domino's, and Subway, always on the go working. I fixed it a little bit by just switching up my diet and decreasing my stress levels, but I was just like, man, this fucking sucks. And then a couple of my friends too, they were in like the 300s, 400s. I was like, man, and these are the people that are working like animals. So I'm like, if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to be stressed to the gills almost. It's going to be like work, health, and social balance is a very hard thing. You usually got to give up in one area. Usually, if you're working 100 miles an hour, you might have to give up a little bit of your social life. If you're social and you're working, you might need to give up a little bit on your health.
But don't let it go for too long.
Don't let it go for too long.
You won't be able to enjoy any of the things that you're working for.
Yeah. So when I was like 23, I think it was, and I was in like, I think it was like 279. 278 was my level, and I was like, what the fuck is going on?
For frame of reference, teenage boy probably has 1,500. Too high.
About 850 is like a prime.
Yeah, 850, 900.
That's high normal. Usually 500, 700 is the average adult.
Yeah, so if you can get yourself back up to that 800 mark, then you're, and it's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, some people can, be optimal at 500, some people at 800, that's just way too much for their body. But I mean, for me, I like to stay high normal. So I like to be between 700 to 850 myself personally.
Sure.
So you will not be able to operate as a man with low testosterone. You're probably going to be running about half capacity. You're going to be dull mentally. You're not going to be able to put on any muscle. Your sleep is going to be dog shit. Dog shit. If your testosterone levels are under 300.
If it's too high, it'll be dog shit too, because you'll have too much energy.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, we can operate going 2 to 4 to 5 hours of sleep and we'll be okay because our body's just optimal. When your levels are 200, 300, man, I was sleeping for like 10, 12 hours a day and it felt like I wasn't getting any sleep. Yeah. There was a period of my life where
recovery.
There's no recovery. You're sleeping, but you're not healing. You're not going into full REM sleep. That's huge. That's something that is a modern problem. Our grandparents didn't have to deal with this.
Well, we're living longer. They had better food. They had less stress in their lives.
Yeah.
So on and so forth. So.
If you're a man, I got my dad to get his testosterone levels checked like 6 years ago, and it just changed the quality of his life. I mean, just absolutely just night and day difference.
It is literally the fountain of youth for guys.
It's the poor man's fountain of youth. Once you start getting into like HGH and all these different peptides, that's going to cost you like $1,500, $2,000 a month when you start getting on like HGH and all these other things. Yeah. That's when you can almost just reverse aging at that point. But TRT is the modern fountain of youth.
And if you get a prescription, it's
like $15, $30 a month.
Yeah, I was going to say $20, $30 a month. So yeah, it's not terribly expensive. So yeah. How's that?
Yeah, nice. That's some good stuff. Y'all making me rethink if I should go get tested.
No, you're good. You should have no worries until you're about 25.
The only thing I worry about is I don't sleep often or much, so I feel like that could crash my test levels. But
yeah, it can.
I think I'm all right.
I mean, you'll be good. You got a couple of years.
I'm fine.
So let's you started touching on. We've been interviewing you for the past hour and 45. Let's flip this around. You had some questions about Airbnbs. You had some questions about real estate.
Yeah, no, I mean we've been keeping an eye on this, and we would like to get at least one Airbnb in pocket this year.
Okay,
that's our goal for 2023.
I have 11 current active listings, and by this summer,
so what would
I'll
you tell
have 13.
somebody that was starting out? What would you?
You need to be prepared and aware for what you are getting into.
For sure.
Real estate and Airbnb is two separate entities. Mm-hmm. You don't have to own real estate to have an Airbnb business. And that's going to go right over people's heads. You can arbitrage, you can rent out another unit. You do not have to own real estate to have an Airbnb business. You are in the hospitality business. Mm-hmm. You are offering a service to someone, which is, they stay for the night, the weekend, you have to clean the sheets, make sure the soap's filled up, make sure the paper towels is there. you are operating a hospitality business. It's not like buying a piece of real estate and renting it out long term where you don't have to check on the people. It is a new entity that you have to stay on top of, okay? When I think it was before I started converting, it was like 20 plus rentals. Took me maybe 30 minutes of my time every month to manage long-term rentals. It does not take long at all. It really is not a hard task. Quality of life does not change. If you start running Airbnbs and you don't have a business mindset, it will run your life, okay? And I know you'll be able to digest this one. Mm-hmm. When you use systems, you delegate, you automate things, I might spend 5 minutes a day now on my Airbnb business because I've put an automated cleaning service in where every time a guest checks in, it gets parsed out to cleaners automatically without me lifting a finger. That saves me 2 to 3 hours a day of having to call cleaners, coordinate things, schedule it, stay on top of them. The next thing would be I've automated my messaging. So instead of me communicating all day, spending 2 to 3 hours a day on just checking people in, checking people out, I just am on quality control. I don't have to even do that. I can pay a VA $50 a day to replace that. I just enjoy kind of like saying, hey, where are the kinks in my operation? Where can I improve? Because guests will message you and say, look, your bed was a little uncomfortable. Somebody knocked a hole in your wall. I think you need to fix that. I'm just making sure, I need to be able to master the business before I give it to someone else. Mm-hmm. The next thing would be you need to operate one Airbnb the same way you would operate 100 and not change the quality of your life. Okay. Right now, I could take on, it doesn't matter. My 5 minutes a day would not change if I had 50 Airbnbs.
Yeah, it's just setting up the processes. Once you get the processes up, then
yes,
it's the same for all of them.
Yes. So treat it like a business because I know people that have one Airbnb and they're spending 5-6 hours plus a month on it, running out, trying to do things maintenance-wise, trying to save a couple of pennies. You need to get in the habit of, even at your first rental, whether it's Airbnb or a long-term rental, have a good maintenance man, have a good cleaning crew, have a property manager that to at that point you can step away from the business. But nowadays, you don't need to charge 20-30% of your income to a property manager. I can do all of that for about 3 to 5% with systems and processes. Not everyone is going to be able to operate it like a business, but they should, because I can tell you, you're a very busy guy. The last thing you want to be doing is, having an angry guest because your, Airbnb wasn't cleaned correctly, and now you got to go out there and you got to fix it, or, somebody can't figure out how to work the TV, something just stupid. I mean, people are going to call you for the dumbest reasons with Airbnb. So if you want to get into that field, I fully support it, but you need to be fully aware that it can take time out of your day. So if you're going to let's say you have one Airbnb and it's pulling in $4,000 a month, your mortgage and everything else is $1,500, that's a decent income. Okay. I would say it's going to go up and down depending on the season, but let's say it takes you 10 hours a month to manage that. Okay. Well, in your business right now, I don't know what your time's worth. I'm going to say it's $200 an hour, $150 an hour.
I bill out at $200.
Okay. So if you managing this Airbnb is something you can delegate for $10, $15, $20, $30 an hour, you're losing money if you're doing it yourself. So find out what your dollar per time rate is. So if yours is $200 an hour, if you are doing anything that's worth $199 an hour that you're not delegating, you're losing money.
Yep.
Down to that. Build a solid team of people to help you run your Airbnbs. I can step out right now and have 11 Airbnbs going on autopilot, generating, I think this month, I should pull in like 27 in the off season, 26 during the summertime. Man, last summer, 5 Airbnbs, 5 2-bedroom apartments pulled in. It was like $33,000 in 1 month. That was more than 20 plus long-term rentals in my portfolio before that, with just 5 of crappy Airbnbs, 2 bedrooms. I'm going to have 11 of them with technically a 6-bedroom going this year. I'm estimating during the summertime it should be between $60,000 to $80,000 a month during the summer, which is absolutely insane because long-term rentals, I was pulling in, it was like 15, 16 a month, 18 a month, somewhere around there with
And
20 plus properties, commercial, apartments, everything. And I was netting probably about $8,000 to $10,000 a month off that, at the end of the day.
And off that 60 or 80?
I'll probably net about half.
That's still
Probably more than that. I need to do when that comes in. See, the good thing about Airbnb is your expenses don't go up. So my expenses during the winter is the exact same. My occupancy is about the exact same. The cleaning fees are the same. During the summertime, my nightly rate just goes up.
Correct, because of demand.
So I'm going to be, my expenses during the wintertime is the exact same as my expenses during the summer. So I'm very curious to see what my net actually is. I'm operating right now at, I think, about 50%, just, after paying mortgages, after doing all that stuff, taxes,
That's
insurance.
still pretty fucking good,
fucking
dude.
amazing at 50%. But it's a business. At any point, though, this could be costing me money. It could go very, very south. And now everybody and their brother wants to hop on the Airbnb train. And, it's just going to, the pretenders are going to get knocked out. The space is getting oversaturated. If you can offer a better service than majority of the other people, you'll survive. And down here, you're in a tourism area. Mobile's, a very high trafficked area. We're going to be fine. We're probably never going to take a hit, especially down here in Orange Beach, Foley. Like I said, the best advice, it might work for you. I think you're going to run it, smoothly. It's not going to impact the quality of your life. But for the average person out there, you are starting another business. And be aware of that. This is not passive income. Airbnb is not passive. It is a job. It is an organization. It is not passive income. Even long-term rentals, apartments, is not passive income. You still have to work. There's things that you have to manage. The only thing that's going to be passive in real estate is if you own the note, where you own the mortgage and they got to pay you 6% interest every year. And for the most part, that's passive. But there's 1 to 3% of the time you might have to foreclose on someone. But real estate isn't exactly a solid source of passive income. Most people think they can just buy a piece of property and then turn their phone off, go to sleep, and then you're good.
No, but any business that you can run as a single person and have a team of people and make a $40,000 profit in 1 month.
Yeah, that's
worth
it. It's worth it. It's definitely worth it. These are good problems to have. But
my interest is peaked,
one
Justin.
Airbnb is not going to change the quality of your life. Now, if you had 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, now that we're having a different conversation here.
100%.
We're
starting with one just to get started.
That should definitely be your goal. Is here's some free game. Here's what I did. I had a 10-unit apartment complex, and I pretty much just converted it to a limited service motel with just Airbnbs now. I don't have staff checking people in, checking people out. One of the just biggest gold mines in America right now is take a quadplex, because you can get an FHA loan on it, and if you live in one unit legally for a year, you can still rent out the other 3, or if not, buy it conventional. A quadplex on long-term rentals, let's say your market's $1,000 a month. That's $4,000. With Airbnb, your income's now probably about $12,000 a month consistently. Quadplexes and converting them into a 4-unit short-term rental is killer. And the difference between the Baldwin County market and the Mobile is you guys have an ungodly amount of quadplexes, duplexes, triplexes. We don't have that over here in Baldwin County, which makes me mad. But you guys, you could go out there tomorrow and, you could buy, 5 different quadplexes, have 20 Airbnbs going within a year.
Man, I'd have to put a bunch of money in them because it's trash.
So each Airbnb is going to cost you about $2,500 per bedroom to furnish. And that includes your living room, your dining room, everything. It's $2,500 per room. So if you got a 3-bedroom apartment, it's going to cost you $7,500 to get your Airbnb business up and going. On average.
Actually, I would, and I'm not arguing because you know this business better, but I recently mentioned going through a divorce and tell people now that when you go through a divorce, just getting enough to furnish your apartment, $10,000.
Yeah.
Because you got to get the pots and the pans and the cups and all that stuff along with it. So,
yeah. So, you can cheap it out with Amazon and, going to thrift stores, getting furniture and stuff like that. But
then you get those kind of clients.
Just on average, $2,500 per bedroom. It's good math. You are running a business. This is a huge thing where everybody in real estate is trying to hop on the Airbnb bandwagon because now they can get cash flow. Right now with long-term rentals, there's not any cash flow. Yeah. It's very hard to get cash flow off of long-term rentals. you're probably going to be losing money buying long-term rentals right now. Hard truth. Airbnb, now everybody's like, oh, wow, I went from an 8% cap rate. Now I'm getting a 15% cap rate, 14%. But yeah, you're operating a business on top of that. And a lot of people are messing it up and putting a lot of bad taste in people's mouths because they're just running Airbnb businesses like absolute dog doo-doo.
Yeah.
You're not going to do that. But
Nope.
just full transparency here because I'm a year into it. In my first year, as of this week, I'll clear 200 grand. My first year in Airbnb. Next year, it should double that, maybe 1.75 it.
Because you're adding additional units.
Yeah. So whenever I started out, I was converting each apartment into another Airbnb. So every month I added an Airbnb. Next year, I'll have this personal house and possibly my Foley house going at any given time. So each one of my properties is going to be net neutral or producing income. My houses, like I've got 2 personal houses. My Foley house will be an Airbnb whenever I'm not living in it. This house is going to be an Airbnb. I just keep an owner's closet with all my stuff in it. And I need to be able to say, I'm going to Costa Rica for a month. Let's have this producing money. And the beautiful part of that is this house cost me like, I think $5,500 a month to just own. If I broke even on this and went to Costa Rica for a month, I would be paying 1/4 and living like a king compared to here. So, I mean, I'm building a life of freedom with it. And with Airbnb, real estate, automation, chat GPT, all these tools, I can do that without having 50 employees under me.
And that, folks, is how you bring it full circle.
Balance.
On cue, and 10 seconds left.
Okay. If you guys enjoyed Marcus, what is the best way to reach you?
Best way is email. So Marcus at bluefished, as in design, S as in studio.com.
Okay, we're going to put his link below. And if you guys want us to get him back on or ask any questions, we'll leave them in the comments below.
No pressure. But, a shiny nickel for everybody that leaves a comment in the positive.
Yeah. So we're also building something on the back end too. We're building a community. So if you're still here this far into the episode, we're building a Discord group, and on our website, there's going to be a community where you can talk to people like Marcus or talk to him one day if we can convince him to join us. And you'll be able to ask people like him questions. Now, it might not always be free, but for the time being, we're going to have a big group where we can funnel questions between me, Gage, and some of the guests that we've had on previously.
Heck yeah, guys. So stay tuned for that. And if you have any questions, drop them down below. Without any further ado, we're